I'll see if
Well,
it me. Wait, there's something in the inbox. Oh, that ain't it.
okay, so I'm live now.
Okay, so yeah, so now I got a notification that you're live, and it came in on my phone, and now I can see it. Here it is.
Oh, that's funny.
Live now.
That's
Yep.
pretty cool.
Now I got a notification. It's a delay. You're live, and it came in on my phone. Now I can see it. Here it is.
That's hilarious.
Live now. Yep. Pretty cool. Now I got a notification. It's a delay. You're live, and it came in on my phone. It works. Now I can see. But can you do multi-track audio?
I don't believe so. We can check now, I guess.
Oh, can you change it to studio mode?
Let's see.
But can you do multi-track audio?
See, no, same option. Just kind of, yeah, no guitar.
So it's going live. So that should notify your subscribers that we're live.
It says we have one viewer. Zero viewers. They just jumped off. Oh, yeah. It was you.
I close out of it.
Actually, my other account, my Old Metal Dude, that's what I named this, but my Old Metal Dude account, I've got subscribers there.
Yeah.
They liked my video that I did. A bunch of people commented on it.
Yeah, so once you get subscribers, then if they're set up for alerts when you upload, then you'll get a notification that there's a live stream going on. I got those from this other dude I watched that does cryptocurrency reviews and stuff, and so he's over in the UK. But when he goes live and sends out a stream, I get the notification and I stream it over to my TV, and then I just watch it.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's what I do. I get different people that I follow and stuff. I'll get different things.
I just don't understand what the studio mode is not doing. I mean, maybe there's some more reading we have to figure it out, like what people are saying recently about it. Like,
well, no, I Googled it quite a bit, and they just don't have the option of.
Yeah, because I mean, we found the way to turn it on, but it's like, are people saying, a couple of people were saying it wasn't doing much, or
yeah, the only thing it's for just enhances audio for music. And
yeah, but like I said, part of that was the fact that it was going to do stereo channels now that you use your interfaces, and you could use pro audio gear. That was the whole purpose of it, so a band could like mic up their whole jam and then see, because that's what I was trying to do for Bob, because he was having those jams at his garage, and I was like, dude, you have a mixer, you have the drums all mic'd, you have everything going through your setup. If you could send that audio into the Hangout and go into studio mode, then you should be able to broadcast with mixed clean audio, as opposed to his external mic that was picking it up.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
And we tried that a couple times, and I don't know, he couldn't get it to work, but he eventually just settled on the Snowball microphone. So Snowball in the room and just put it in the middle of the room, and then it just picked everything up, and it was sufficient. It was way better than the webcam mic for sure, but
definitely, yeah.
But it wasn't multi-channel, and it wasn't coming from the mixer, and it wasn't what it's supposed to be. And that was the whole purpose of this on-air studio mode. That was what it was. The pretense was, this is going to allow you to broadcast your band. It's going to allow you to send out clean audio. It's going to be able to do stereo and multi-channel from a interface, whatever you need to do. Here it is. And now we're finding out that, well, it's not really doing any of that.
Yeah.
It may be like enhancing it with some kind of audio,
codec or something.
Yeah, but it isn't doing what it was intended or, touted as being able to do, because I haven't yet seen anyone have a multi-channel mix going through a Hangout. Like, you can do voice or studio mode, but none of them, either option doesn't make much of a difference.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I don't know why they just don't enable 2-channel audio. Stereo 2-channel. Why is that so hard? The one thing I read saying that it's the bandwidth, but it's only audio. So
well, that's the thing, is the bandwidth, like anything else, you can change, you can lower the video codec setting to 360 resolution, and you can still send out an HD picture, but it's less bandwidth because it's not full 1080p, it's 360. But it should be the same way with audio. Yeah, you can send out multiple channels, but they're not at 256k bit rate. You just shrink them down to 128 bit rate. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So you're not using as much bandwidth, but it's still multi-track.
Yeah.
So that's the thing about it, is you can reduce the bandwidth by compressing the video or compressing the audio and not using that higher bit rate, but still get the multiple channels. So that handles the bandwidth problem, because you're not broadcasting at 320 kilobits, which is the highest MP3 encoding you can go, is 320. So if you tap down the audio codec and say, just send it out at 128, I think 128 is the lowest you can go for music. And I think like 64 is for like voice. So you get like telephone quality voice audio if you turn it way down, but you can still get decent stereo music at 128, 192. I think it goes up to 128, 192, and then it goes to 256, and then it goes up to 320 is the highest.
Gotcha.
Kilobits per second for encoded MP3 audio. So that argument that there's too much bandwidth is really not relevant to multi-channels, because you can change the codec to broadcast it in a lower bit rate, and there's going to reduce the bandwidth.
Yeah.
Still maintain multi-channel. So I'm not buying that bandwidth issue.
Bullshit. Yeah.
I'm not buying it, because you can do the same with video. You just turn down the resolution and you're not shooting at the video at 1080 or 4K or whatever. You just make it 720 or 360 or.
Yeah. And it doesn't, this other one has you can do like the lower third and stuff like that.
Hey, dude, do you have Netflix?
Yeah. I haven't watched it in a while, but
you got to watch this movie. It's called Like Father. Got Kelsey Grammer in it, the guy from.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's a pretty good movie, dude. It's it's a story. It's got Seth Rogen in it. His wife produced it, and it's actually it's a feel good kind of movie, but it's not too serious. But the content is about Kelsey Grammer, and he's estranged from his daughter, and then and he shows up at her wedding like in the future.
Wow.
And then her bride walks out on her. I won't ruin it for you, but anyway, the dad shows up, and then she gets drunk with him, and they end up on a cruise ship, which was going to be her honeymoon supposedly, but her husband left her at the altar, so she ends up on the cruise ship with her dad.
Oh, okay.
She doesn't really know him very well, but the content is kind of like the thing I'm going through with my kid, is like he explains to her. It's like the irony is just incredible. Like he takes her out, they go to Jamaica or something on a boat cruise, and he takes her out somewhere and he tells her, look, you don't know the whole story, and he explains to her that, I used to come visit you when you were a kid, and then every time I had to say goodbye, it got more and more painful. And he said,
wow.
And then he's like, at some point, I just figured you'd be better off without me coming around. So it wasn't a question of I just left you.
Mm-hmm.
Because she had animosity towards him, like, oh, you walked out. And then when she was older, and then he told her the story, then she got all, emotional. So I told my kid to watch it. I said, watch this movie, and then let me know if you want me to come hang out with you. So I don't know if she watched it or not, but it's the whole point I'm trying to get across to her is she doesn't know the whole story. And this movie encapsulates the whole premise of that.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that she watched it. And I told my mom to watch it. She watched it. But yeah, it's a good movie. If you get a chance to watch it with Susie or whatever, you can check it out. It's got Seth Rogen in it. And like I said, his wife is pretty smart. I saw her on Stephen Colbert, and she was interviewing him. He was interviewing her about making the movie. She didn't talk a lot about it, but she seems like a pretty smart woman, and she produced it and made the movie. So
Yeah, cool. That's cool. Yeah, okay. And what's it called again?
it's called Like Father, you know, like father, like son, or called Like Father.
Yeah.
But if you really want to watch something and get a grip on what's happening right now,
Yeah.
if you really want to know what's going on with Trump and the politics and where we're at, you need to watch this documentary. It's called Get Me Roger Stone.
Mm.
And that's on Netflix, dude. It's called Get Me Roger Stone. So if you just search for Roger Stone, you'll find it. But it tells you, and I posted it on my News Kicker feed. It basically will explain to you exactly what the fuck is happening right now. Like this dude, you remember Karl Rove and all the
yeah.
he used to do? So this guy is a similar guy to that. He's the same kind of guy. He's a, you know, he's a campaign manager, but he's a scumbag. And it goes through like all of the shady shit that he's did in politics. And it goes like, this guy's been around forever, dude. And when you watch it, you're just going to be blown away, because I didn't know who the guy was 6 months ago. But they show him with pictures with him and Reagan. They show him with pictures of him and Nixon. He was on the Nixon campaign. And he was the guy who first created, he was one of the first guys to create a negative campaign ad in the 70s. And they show some of the old 4x3 video of like cheesy content, like at a deli or something. And he's sticking these like where the prices would go, and like it's a cut, it's like a slab of bologna. And he sticks on there like 49 billion. And then he sticks something else on there.
Wow.
Like, where you would put the like the price or the name of it. And then he's talking about how this other politician has blown all this money or something. But he was the first one to really invent the negative campaign ad. And he was in the political scene for the Republicans. And he said he was the master of misinformation. Like he would purposely create all these divide and conquer scenarios.
Wow.
Like and so all these politicians, they wanted him, like, you know, Reagan, Nixon, like he was the shadiest shady, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so then there was a scandal that came out in the 90s that he was like fucking these broads, and he was posting shit on Craigslist or somewhere, and he was looking for guys with big cocks to come and fuck his girlfriend. Yeah, like to come and bang his girlfriend and have threesomes and shit. So the impact on his career is he was still like a puppet master behind the scenes, but he couldn't be like chief of staff, or he knew he couldn't work on big, you know, be part of any of that shit after that scandal happened. So he was kind of out of the scene for many years. And then back in like the late 90s, he started grooming Trump, and he was buddies with Trump and the same thing.
Oh, wow.
Like Trump and Manafort and all these cast of characters that you're seeing now. Like this has been going on, dude, like for 12, 15 years. He's been grooming Trump for many years and telling him he should run for president, how he's going to manage his campaign and do all this shit, and how Trump was at one point going to do it, and then he backed out, and then finally he came back into the political scene, and he was in charge of creating this whole thing we're seeing with Trump, like all the dramatic shit.
Wow.
Mexican rapist. Like he came up with all these key fiery things to enrage people and create this drama. And when you watch this documentary, you're like, holy fuck, these fucking same scumbag fucking douchebag criminals have been running this shit from behind the scenes for many, many years, dude.
Wow.
And when you see how it shows the whole pre-election and the campaign, and he's behind the scenes, and he's meeting with and he's a shady motherfucker, dude. And he's one of the guys right now that's going to be interrogated by special counsel Robert Mueller.
Yeah.
And one of the gals that was interviewed last week was this prostitute, or not prostitute. She's the madam of the prostitutes. So she was in the news recently. Well, it turns out she and this Roger Stone are really close, and he's the godfather of her kid, and da 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 da.
Yeah.
And when you watch this documentary, it's just mind fucking blowing, because you're like, no wonder we're in this fucking situation. And they show like all the same tactics of how they bash the other guy, and they leak some false information just before the election. And this has all been part of their strategy for years, and how they've done it through all these presidencies, Nixon and Reagan. And you see the history of this fucking Roger Stone character, and you're like,
I knew
he's
about him.
been like a lobbyist. He was in charge of lobbying.
Yeah.
He brought a bunch of people in to get close to the president. So he made a shit ton of money because he opened a lobbying firm with some other dude. And like, they've been making money off of this political scene for years, and they've been manipulating people like fucking puppets. And when you watch the documentary, you really have to watch it. You're going to leave with a sense of, we're totally fucked.
Yeah, I just listened to this Joe Rogan podcast with this guy, Jimmy Dore. Do you know who he is? Yeah, dude. It's way interesting. He talks about a lot of that stuff, and how about that, like, and even the Democrats, how all of them we're so fucked. Like, all these people just don't know that it's, you know what I mean? That it's hard to explain. It's really good. I'll send you a link to it, and then I'll watch that video, because I know a little bit about Roger Stone. I knew he was part of the Nixon administration. I knew that. And then he hooked up with, that guy. What's his name? They just took his show off the YouTube. What's his name?
Alex Jones.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
He was with Alex Jones, and they show them at a rally saying about Clinton, lock her up, like he's been a part of this whole thing, this whole movement, from like, he came back into politics, and he says it in the video. He's like, I'm a jockey with no horse to ride, and I've been out of the game for a long time. And then, I had been talking to Trump to see if he'd get on board, and finally, when he decided, then he brought me in. So he came back into politics after his big sex scandal.
Yeah, that's right.
And this motherfucker has been creating all of this misinformation. And he said he's glad that people hate him, because that means he's being effective.
Wow.
And he loves that. So you got to watch the documentary, dude.
Okay, what's it called again?
Called Get Me Roger Stone.
Okay, I think I did see someone talk about that too not long ago.
It's fucking unbelievable, dude. And I was just watching it going, holy, we're totally fucked. And the problem is we live in a country where people with small minds are easily riled up over divisive issues, and they have no concept of reality other than the fucking talking points of the fucking Fox News hosts. And these guys feed a fucking mainline right into that fucking news feed, and they create these fucking scenarios to just keep them in the loop of the discussion. And it's really a constant warfare of misinformation, and that's what they're doing. So it is like Alex Jones says, it's info wars. It's a war of information, and they're playing it to the point where they've mastered it, and they know exactly how to take out other opponents. They know exactly what information to leak on people at what time. They create all these dramatic, divisive issues and get people riled up, and then they do it just before the election to get them in, and then they get them in and they rob us blind.
Yeah.
These fuckers are behind the scenes making all their friends rich.
Yeah.
And they've sold us all out. None of them are representing the people. They're all representing their own financial interest, in these lobbyists and their fucking, NRA contributions or corporate oil money or whatever the fuck it is. They just go through the lobbying firm, and the lobbying firm makes a percentage of money by getting their positions in front of the fucking policymakers of the Congress to pass this shit that helps their business but doesn't do anything for people.
Yeah. Nope.
And in fact, it does the opposite with the EPA regulations, or all these things that these people were bitching about. And now, you know, they're bringing back asbestos, apparently, I hear.
Unbelievable.
And Trump has his logo on a fucking cart of Russian packed asbestos, and it's got a fucking sticker with Trump's face on it with a bunch of acrylic Russian writing around it. And it's a box of fucking pallets of asbestos laced insulation material that they're sending to the United States.
Wow.
It's got a picture of Trump on it, dude. I'll have to find that and send it to you. But, you know, that's what's happening is they're letting all these corporations just run rampant over all the environmental protection shit that we had, because their premise is it's costing us money because we're limited by all these regulations. Yeah, the regulations that protect people's water and air and the fucking environment, sure. And the reason why they don't want it is because it's costing them money to pollute. They have to spend money to decontaminate, like all the shit that they should be doing. They're mad about having to pay for it. So they lobbyists to get a law passed that says, oh, you don't have that regulation anymore. Now they can just dump tons of shit into the water.
Yeah.
And it saves them money, and they don't have to do the proper cleanup, and they're not responsible. So it's just poisoning people for making money.
Yeah, exactly.
We got a $8 billion space force, and people are saying, why can't they fix the water problem in Flint, Michigan?
No shit, man. It's bullshit. They can. It's just, you're right. And the Democrats weren't much better on it either. You know what I mean? Really, you know, a little bit
that's
better.
That's the thing. They're both bought out because the way the system is set up. So you go from one set of crooks to the other set of crooks. And the thing that makes it different from the outsider's perspective, looking at the two parties, you got this group, when they get into control, they do the things that they want to do for their people and their people. And then when the other team gets in control, they have an outward social agenda, you know, and they get their team on board. But then behind the scenes, they're doing the same shit.
Yeah.
They're just doing it for different companies and different things, and
different things.
Yeah. And they're making money off of it. They're not raping the environment, but they've got some other group of money people that they're helping some way.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I totally believe that. Well, and we've kind of known that. We've talked about that stuff before, but it gets reiterated to you when you see a documentary like that, like you were talking about, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you really got to watch it, dude, because it'll have you like, you know, I kind of felt the same way when I watched a documentary about Karl Rove. That was the last time I felt that way. And you saw the shit that fucking asshole did.
Yeah.
And how he intimidated people and he did all this shit. But it doesn't seem nearly as impactful, even it was horrible the shit he did. But this Roger Stone guy has him beat by a mile.
Yeah.
And way more worse shit. And it's
I believe
going on. And it's been going on for 40 fucking years.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
yeah, I believe
all these other administrations and all the crooked shit he was doing back then, and now he's back in the game. And who does he got? Trump.
Unbelievable. Hey man, I'm gonna have to get going. I'm lagging. I'm like way behind on shit I was supposed to do today.
Yeah, I haven't done much either, man.
I started fucking with all this stuff, and yeah, no, yeah, there's more stuff I wanted to talk to you about. So we'll start doing this a little more often, to catch up on stuff.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and I'm going to do some more research, and maybe I can find out some more about this whole thing, because I know that there's guys, I've seen people on YouTube using multiple channel stuff. So
yes, there's probably a YouTube tutorial on it or something, and just type in like multi-channel live broadcast or multi-channel hangout or something. There's probably a video of somebody that's done
it out or something.
Yeah.
Maybe there's an extension. You may be able to do it over in Google Chrome. Maybe they give you an option.
To be honest with you, now that I think about it, I think initially that studio mode, I could be wrong, but I think it was initially like a plug-in. You had to like download it or something, but I could be wrong. But I think they have several iterations of how to implement it. And
Yeah.
There's a lot of shit like that though with Google, dude. They have a lot of stops and starts. They have like an app that comes out supposed to be the killer app, and everybody signs on to it. And then 6 months later, oh, we're moving you to a different app, or we're no longer supporting that, or whatever. And I've sent them emails like that. And I said, I sent out shit on social media, and I'm like, here we go again with this Google shit. They get us onto some new app, and it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Then we all get on board, and we all sign up to it. And then we complain about the things we want it to do that it doesn't do, or things that make it better. And then what does Google do? They just create some other app and tell us all that you're migrating to this new version of some other shit. And then we go over to that, and that works, but it doesn't do what the other thing used to do. And then that goes on for 6 months. And then finally Google says, oh, we're just going to close that down.
Yeah.
And, develop it anymore. And so now you get us all on this ride, and then you take us nowhere.
Yeah.
And that's what I posted, because they did the same thing with Google Wallet, dude. Google Wallet initially came out, was the best thing since sliced bread, because you could do a couple of things. You could transfer money. You've done it to me back and forth a couple times.
Yeah,
it's
I remember. Yeah.
Continuous. And then initially when it came out, you could get a credit card. It was a Google Wallet card.
Oh, okay.
And you could put your funds into the card, and you could spend it like cash anywhere you were at, like a credit card, but it was, whatever was in your account.
Yeah.
And then at some point they scratched that. They got rid of the card. And at the time I was pissed because I was using it, and I just deleted it. I'm like, fuck you guys then. But then later I came back to the app, Google Wallet, and I was using Google Wallet. You and I were using it. I was sending money to you, sending it back. Clients were paying me. I would send them a link in Google Wallet, and it would go right into my Google Wallet, and then it would immediately transfer to my bank. It was the fucking sweetest thing. It was like, didn't cost hardly anything to do.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, Samsung Pay has Samsung Pay, where you can hook up all your credit cards, all your fucking rewards cards. You can put all your shit into the fucking Google Pay or like Apple Pay or whatever. So now Google says, oh, well, we're going to be more like that. Now we're going to scrap the whole wallet, and we're going to move you people all over to Google Pay.
Wow.
And so then it threw me into Google Pay, and I had to update the app. And then it said, we're no longer going to support the wallet. So now it's called Google Pay Send or some stupid shit. And then I put that on there. Then it said, oh no, now we're going to full Google Pay. And it's basically a replica of the Samsung Pay. And now when you go into it, you have to add your cards. And I can add all my credit cards and scan them and put them in there. And then I have to, when I go to the last card, which is my actual bank card, then it tells me, oh, you can't authorize this until you call your bank. Like there was some other.
That's Apple Pay is the same way.
Yeah, well, there was some other ones that said, oh, punch in your code and now you're approved, and it was good. The credit cards went through. But when I got to the bank card, it said, oh, you have to call your bank. And when I got to those other ones and it stopped me, it said you can call your bank, or you can submit an SMS code, and then I could authorize it right then. And I did that. But when I got to my bank card, it didn't give me any of those other options. It just said, call your bank.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, fuck this. I don't want to call my bank, because that's going to turn into a big old drama. And I'm going to be explaining to them that I need to add it to my, Google Wallet. And I don't want to talk to the bank, and I'll fuck all that. So before, with the Google Wallet, I didn't have to use the card. I could put in the bank routing number and the account number. And so that when you paid me, or I pay, or somebody paid me, that I could just immediately route it to my bank. Well, now with the new Google Pay, I can't put in the direct banking routing number. I have to scan the debit card, and the debit card won't go in unless I get the bank to authorize it.
Wow.
So it totally fucks me, because now if you were to send me money to what used to work, I can't send it to my bank, because I can't get my bank card attached until I verify it through the bank. And I don't want to go through all of that. I could do that, but I don't want to. But I didn't have to do that before. I could just put in the routing number, and it would verify the account, and I was tied to my bank. And then any money that came to the Google Wallet would immediately go into the bank. I had it set to auto deposit. And so now they've taken something that was great and completely, over 3 iterations, completely.
Oh God, I believe it. Yeah.
And this what goes on with Google all the time, dude. So it's not anything I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I don't know if Apple does the similar shit, but it's horrible.
Not usually,
you
not
create
like
this
that.
app, you get us all excited about it, like that last one, that Google Duo, where we could do the voice calls.
Yeah, yeah.
And that works on Mac and it works on Google. And it looked okay at first, but you know, why do we need that? We have Hangouts. Like, why don't you just make Hangouts better? Why do we
Yeah.
need a whole nother app?
I don't get it. Yeah, exactly. Why don't you just make that better? Yeah.
You know, they keep like creating all these replica products to try to hit and miss, figure out what people are going to like. And then, you know, a certain group of people likes this app, but it's not enough. It doesn't meet enough user profiles or whatever. So then they find, oh, this thing, we got more users. So let's go to this thing, or let's pull everybody off of this and force them onto this other thing. It's this background logic that goes on in these tech companies where they manipulate the user base. And that's the problem with it, dude.
I don't know why they do that. I mean,
it's about money. They just want the product that gets the most usability. And that, you know, like VHS and beta, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the better of the choice, but it's the thing that everyone fell into, they're all using. So then they go to that. And then it's like they try to control communities by moving them into these apps and out of these apps. And it's like, fuck, man, just give us one app that does everything instead of 5 apps that do a little bit of all the shit we want.
No shit. I agree.
You know?
Yeah.
Like one app that does it all, like this fucking Hangouts, or call it something else. Call it, you know,